Here's a 3-point framework for how we can analyze a reference, whether it's a photo or in front of us, in order that we can draw the ground in an effective way. Because the ground is often a weak spot in drawings. It's often a less important part of what we're looking at, of what our subject is. In this case, our subject is this wonderful curved, hollowed rock that sits on the ground. And because of this, because it's not the star event of the drawing, the ground is often an afterthought. In fact, it often looks drawn as if there was even some resentment at having to make any effort to draw it. And yet, even if the foreground, even if the actual ground is just framing around our subject, we don't want our frame to detract from the main focus of the drawing. We still want the quality of the drawing, the technique used, everything to be compatible with the more obviously important parts of our drawing. And I've chosen this sort of messy, complex ground, which I think particularly causes problems for artists, because there's just so much detail here that either it's ignored totally or a fairly haphazard, even rushed approach can be taken just to pay some sort of lip service to it, but not really wanting to get bogged down in detail. Or else we can get so bogged down in drawing the detail once we start that it actually overwhelms and draws attention away from the main subject and can visually cause a fair amount of imbalance in where we look and what we look at. So how do we tackle the ground in a complex subject such as this, particularly when we're drawing in pen, when we can't lay our pencil on its side and apply value, apply tone across broad areas, when we are still limited to line? Well, my first point is we need to understand foreshortening. We need to look at our reference or our view and say what's happening with the foreshortening. Now, foreshortening is a perspective term that refers to the fact that as an object moves further away from us, it becomes narrower, more and more narrow, the more it moves away. So a row of windows in a building slanted away from us, those windows will appear narrower and narrower as they move down the row, and the gaps between them will move narrower and narrower. But foreshortening doesn't just happen on the vertical surfaces, it happens on horizontal surfaces that move away from us as well. And of course, the ground is a horizontal surface moving away from us, and therefore this happens with things on the ground. As the ground moves away, the things become narrower and narrower as they move further back. Now, exactly how much this happens, how quickly this narrowing takes place, depends on how quickly or how far the ground is moving away from us visually in terms of what we can see. And that's going to be less if we're, say, looking down at the ground more. It's going to be more if we're low down, looking more along the ground. In that case, the ground's going to move away, a long way for a very small amount of rise on our paper. Whereas if we're looking straight down on our reference, the ground isn't going to be moving away from us at all, and therefore everything will be at the same level of width. We're not going to have that distortion. But most things are somewhere in between. And with this scene, we're looking down reasonably, but we are looking along as well. So I need to work out how much I'm going to need to compress my details as I move them further back. So that's the first point. I need to consider the foreshortening, work out how much visual compression takes place as we move further back, and get a sense of where I'm going to do what as I move up the paper with my ground details. The second point is when I have details such as I have here, I need to create the effect of the detail, not try and draw the detail. If I try and draw the detail, I can end up, as I mentioned before, drawing so much detail that it overwhelms the drawing in a visual sense, but often it ends up not looking very realistic. And it's not just leaf litter and grass, but it could be cobblestones, paving stones, could be gravel. The ground often has many repeated motifs or objects on it, and therefore this approach is very important because it can be applied to all of these. So what I've done is I've looked at the leaf litter and I've drawn a part of what I see in some detail in one part. Enough detail so that if someone looking at my drawing focuses on that detail, they can actually understand what it is. They can say, oh, I can see some leaves that have fallen on top of each other and some tufts of grass and maybe some twigs and some broken bits of things. Enough detail that they can make sense of what I've drawn. And this establishes in viewers' minds a sense of what they can now presume over the whole of the area without my having to draw it all. This is why I can create the effect now with a lot less marks, a lot less detail, because the key is in the smaller part that is very clear what it is and that the brain will just presume. And so you can see that while in the lower left corner I've done some detail with the leaf litter and whatever else is there, I haven't done nearly as much across the rest of the drawing. And as I've moved up, I've made sure that I've tightened, I've narrowed slightly what we see to take foreshortening into account. And it's not just the leaf litter, the objects that are on the ground, but it's also the shadows that are cast on the ground as well. It's important to include those in more detail in our part which will provide the key to understanding what's on the ground, but then in less detail as we move further back, the shadows as well. And then the third point is I need to give careful thought to how I'm going to transition the details from a lot of detail in one small part of the ground to less detail moving across both horizontally and also vertically up the grass, up the paper. Because I want to include enough marks to give a sense of whether there's a lot or just a little bit or the same amount of leaf litter over the whole ground. I don't want to give the sense that there's a big pile of leaf litter right down the front and then the ground's pretty smooth further back. So I want to have enough detail for that, but I don't want to have enough detail that I start to trigger overdrawing, that I start to provide more detail over the whole ground than we actually take in life. Because the truth is, we don't take in all the detail on the ground at once. That's not realistic. That's not how it works. We see a small part that we focus on and our mind presumes the rest. And to have a realistic effect in our drawing, we want to mimic, we want to copy that way the brain works. We want to have a small part of obvious ground in detail and then presume the rest. And then we need to transition that further back. And you can see now how I've chosen to do that here. In the lower left corner, I have my area of more detail where I've drawn the leaves and the twigs, the grass, the shadows more clearly so that someone looking at this can focus there for a moment and get a sense of what now I want them to presume over all of the ground. As I move further back, I've thinned the detail, narrowed it, and simply drawn less as well to help with the effect of depth of plane moving back. But as I've transitioned the detail as we move back, I haven't done it evenly. You'll notice in the center right-hand side, I have, if you like, a secondary area of detail. Not as much detail as in the lower left, but more detail so that we don't have too many empty spaces, too much emptiness, because I still want the feel, I still want the effect that there's leaf litter everywhere without having to draw it too much. So this is what I mean when I speak of transition in. It also means the eye can wander across from the lower left to the mid right and then up to our main subject, this beautiful, almost wooden looking curvature of hollowed out rock. G'day, I'm Stephen Travers. Look, I hope you found this helpful and interesting. The ground is often a weak spot. It doesn't need to be an afterthought. It can be a really interesting and significant part of our drawing, but it doesn't have to take forever putting in lots and lots of detail. So I hope you found this helpful and give it a go drawing. The reference will be on my channel community page. But look, whatever you draw and however you draw it, make sure you have fun. I'll see you next time. Bye.